Welcome to Business on Purpose, the podcast for hardworking entrepreneurs who drive our economy. I'm your host, Barry Barrett, and as a sales leader and business owner, I understand the challenges that come with entrepreneurship. Each episode, I am interviewing business owners who have faced the same struggles you have. Low revenue, a lack of scalability in their sales force. Together, we're going to explore their entrepreneurial journey and uncover the valuable lessons they've learned along the way. From mentors to advice, we'll dive deep into what has helped these business owners get unstuck and move forward towards success. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned entrepreneur, the podcast is for you. Be sure and follow and subscribe to this podcast as we learn from the experiences of successful business owners and navigate the road to entrepreneurship together. Let's get started. Welcome, Bev Jessup, to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for asking. Glad to be here.
I love it.
British
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Bev.
I'm a trained speech and language therapist. I've been working as one for over 30 years now in the UK. And in 2015, I transitioned to working solely online. And now I train other speech therapists to do the same and to do it with confidence.
Oh, that is so good. So you train people who train people on speech therapy to train people. That's good. I like that. We'll go into a black hole of circular definition. Have you ever heard of a circular definition?
So we're as speech therapists, we're obviously experts in communicating. But sometimes we actually lack a bit of confidence in our skills.
That's so good.
Yes, I think we do as professionals anyway.
Yeah, this hits home to me. My son, who is 18 years old now, his name is Luke. He was Lucas at the time. And it's a cosmic joke if your name is Lucas and you can't pronounce your L's.
Yes.
And so he got this fantastic speech therapist. She's local to us. She is now he plays golf and her son played golf with him. They're in the same grade. But she helped him. And really, it only took, I think, 3 or 4 months to really help him. You're doing God's work, I say. That's good.
Yes,
I like that.
yeah. I see now clients all over the world. So that's why I decided I wanted to go online. And it was before COVID, because it's 2015. But it allowed me to, I've got clients in Canada, I've had in Dubai, Nigeria, and the UK and Europe. Yeah, it's a great opportunity to serve people.
Yeah. So you told me where you were from before we started recording. Tell people where you're from and a little bit about yourself right there. You grew up there? What happened?
No, I was born in Uganda. And I don't know if any of your listeners will know the story of Idi Amin in 1972, 73. He basically threw all the Asians out of Uganda, and we became refugees, scattered all the way around the world. So I've got cousins in Canada and all over the world, really. And so we ended up in the UK, my family and I, and we in London. So I was brought up in London, and I trained as a speech therapist in Leicester, which is in the middle of the UK. And then met my husband at uni. We've been married for about 30 years or so, and we've got 3 boys. And we now live on the Isle of Wight, which is a little island just off the coast of Southampton, Portsmouth in the UK.
I love what I do because I meet so many interesting people from all over the world with so many interesting stories. And that's one of the most interesting stories I've ever heard. So that's so fantastic.
Yeah.
So how did you get your start in your business?
I actually transitioned from a 9-to-5 job. So I worked in various schools and clinics, and I worked for the NHS. So the NHS is the National Health Service here in the UK. It's free at the point of need, and really loved working with them. And then I transitioned to working in a school. And I was given the opportunity to become a manager at that school, but I decided I wanted to spend more time with my family. I had 2 young boys at the time. So on the side, on a Saturday, I'd be doing training. I'd be training teaching assistants and parents and things like that. And then I eventually got some clients that I would see in the evening or after school or that sort of thing. And I thought, let's transition to being full-time as a private speech therapist. So that's what I did. And then with work, you have to go with the ebbs and flow of life, because obviously your children need you for different points. And that's what being self-employed allowed me to work flexibly. And I love that, because I didn't have to be accountable to a boss. I was the boss.
Yeah.
And I could set my own hours and also meet their needs, my young boys' needs at the same time. So yes, so that's
How long ago has that been?
So I started my own private practice in 2005, and then 10 years later, I decided I wanted to just go solely online. And that was really because I got my first online client, who was a real challenge.
What made him a challenge?
He was in Italy at the time, and he couldn't speak at all, and he needed an alternative means of communication. So I set him up with an iPad with a particular app, and he needed to pass 5 oral exams. And given that he couldn't speak at all, and he was 17 doing his state exams, and in Italy they don't have special schools, they just have mainstream schools. So he did have special support, he did have assistants that supported him, and I had to train them on how to use the app, all remotely. I had to design the different exam grids on different subjects like Ungaretti or Picasso, World War One, and various topics like that he had for his exam. And in the end, he passed his exams. And I thought, if I can see such a complex case online, I can see anyone online.
100%.
And that's why I transitioned.
So do you help people with speech therapy with English mainly, or do you have multiple languages?
No, I only speak English.
Okay.
And so, yes, I help them with their unclear speech. So at the moment, I've got a Canadian medical student, and he's got a lisp.
Okay.
And he came to me and he said, I just don't want to be known as the doctor with the lisp. And he just wants to sort that out. So usually lisps, they take me about 6 to 8 weeks. And
your craft, then you're like, okay, I've got, which I would expect nonetheless. So how does one not be able to speak? Because it sounds like you have the ability to speak, but you just don't yet know how. How does that happen?
It could be all sorts of different reasons. I'm currently doing a contract for the NHS, because the NHS is so short of staff. So I'm doing a short-term locum contract for them. And I wanted to get, because I left the NHS such a long time ago, and I wanted to see what the need was. And it's interesting because the children there have got multiple learning disabilities and physical disabilities. So cognitively, they've got problems. They can't speak at all. They don't have the understanding of words, and they don't have any means of communicating. So I'm getting to grips with what they can do at the moment and what they need to do. So it's bridging the gap between what they have and what they don't have, and giving them a system so that they can communicate effectively at home on just a basic level, like being able to say that you'd like to have the strawberry milkshake rather than the banana milkshake, or whatever the situation is. And I work with stroke patients who their left hemisphere has been damaged and they can't get the words out. You have this sort of tip of the tongue syndrome. They know what they want to say, but it just doesn't come out. So again, I've given them a different system to allow them to communicate. So I had a South African lady who wanted to talk to her parents. Well, they were in South Africa. She was actually in the UK, and her parents were in South Africa, and she was able to have a conversation with them using the iPad. It's great.
Yeah, I'm sitting here amazed at the things that I do not know. I started out being like, hey, my son couldn't say his L's. And then I'm listening to you and I'm getting a little emotional inside because number one, I'm a speaker and it's one of the unique abilities that I have just been gifted. I've been able to speak well and just as a kid, I mean, they couldn't get me to shut up. That's what I do today. And then I'm sitting here thinking about, I'm like, how would life be without that gift? And we take it for granted. And then I'm listening to you and I'm like, man, there's such bigger problems in not being able to pronounce your L's. And then you're taking people from not being able to speak. And it makes me a little emotional inside. So
Yeah,
I
it
really
does. It makes me
appreciate that.
emotional as well because there's lots of things we take for granted, like going to McDonald's and saying, I'd like large fries and chicken nuggets and a medium Coke, whatever it is. And
Yeah.
so with this lady with a stroke, we rehearsed using her iPad that she could go to McDonald's and press the right buttons and make her order, and even order for me, even though I wasn't there. I was just pretending that she could actually order for someone else as well as
Yeah.
order for herself.
That's so good. So now are you doing half of your business where you're actually doing speech therapy and you're teaching people how to do proper speech therapy?
Yeah, so I have two memberships actually. One's I've only just about to launch it properly. So one is really for parents and teachers and teaching staff, educators, preschooler educators, as well as speech therapists who want to feel confident in how to deliver their therapy. So it's a very low cost membership. It has all the resources. I've put in an Excel spreadsheet split out into different categories, whether you're working with stammerers or whether you're working with children with comprehension difficulties or expressive language or whatever it is. I'm a bit of a nerd, really. I've sort of organized it in
I'm
an
glad
Excel
you
spreadsheet. And got all my resources of 30 years of experience put into that Excel spreadsheet so that they can then have the resources on the screen or they can print it off to use with their children. And inside there's networking opportunities and chance to just feel supported, that you're not on this journey alone when you're trying to support a child with communication difficulties or an adult with communication difficulties. And then my other membership is solely for speech therapists who want to get that sort of clinical experience and support in delivering their therapy, but then thinking about transitioning to setting up their own private practice. So I give them sort of business guidance as well.
That's so good. Good. You're actually 10xing your impact or more based on
Yes,
that
that's
too, right?
right. Yes, basically, I feel like after 30 years, I think I'm ready to retire from being a speech therapist. And I
Okay.
want to hand over the baton to these younger therapists. And I come across them saying, I don't feel confident enough to do it. They might have the qualifications to do the job, but sometimes they just need that extra support and boost
They need a
and
mentor, right?
ideas to
Yeah.
get going.
You need that mentor. Are you creating an online digital course for that?
Yes, so I've got if you go to mavenbusinesshaven.com, that's where the membership information is about. And so I'm building that resource up as well and getting
How'd you
members
get that
out
name?
there.
How'd you come up with that name?
Maven means expert.
Yeah, I knew that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking that you were going with. Yeah.
Yeah, and so business, and then Haven being just a safe place where you can come and say, I'm having problems with this. I don't know how to set this up, or what do you think about this idea working with this child? Or it's just a safe place to do it.
It's interesting, Maven, because I first learned of that word from Malcolm Gladwell. So Maven, I first heard that word with Malcolm Gladwell, and he talks about tipping point. Have you ever read the book Tipping Point?
No, I haven't.
So Tipping Point, and this is interesting because you have a business, you're growing your business, especially a new business. And so he says that you need three types of people to make a business tip, right? At the tipping point. And that is number one, you need connectors, you need salespeople, and you need mavens. And mavens, he says, is people who are an expert in what you do. And so they really care about what that is. So he said that there's people on the back of a bar of soap in a hotel there's an 800 number that you can call if you have comments. And he's, who does that? And he says, the Mavens of the world who really care about soap. And so connectors and salespeople, and then Mavens. And so those three people, if you have those three in your, like your sphere, then your business is going to tip eventually.
Yes.
Is that good?
That's really good. That's
Yeah.
a very encouraging story. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. So Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell is my favorite author of all time because he makes me think differently. And he writes all kinds of different books, but a lot of business, some of them business and things like that. But he's really good, Malcolm Gladwell. So where are you headed now with your business? I know now you're creating something, resources for people who want, young people or new people. Maybe they're not young, but they're new people to the industry. And so you're creating that. And where are you headed the next 3 years with that?
So my vision is to help these two sets of people.
Two sets of people.
Two sets of people.
Good.
So you've got the parents and the newly qualifiers and the educators who want those resources. They want a safe place to air out their grievances, their frustration, because working with a child who's got communication difficulties, you want to feel supported. You want some ideas, and you also want somewhere where you can, like, because in that membership, we've got like audio trainings, we've got meditations, just somewhere to relax and just reflect on life and to get over our burnout, because there's a high rate of burnout in the speech therapy world, in any for any therapist, but also for parents who've got children who've got lots of disabilities. And then the other membership is really for, as I said, for therapists who want to strike out alone, who want to set up their own business. And so I want to be able to support both sets really, and be able to encourage them, because there's this, I just feel therapists are undervalued and overworked, and we are losing a lot of speech therapists from the profession because they just can't keep up with it all.
Yeah, I just had another epiphany. I'm like, I got a daughter, she's 14 as well, and she's really good with spoken word. If she debates you and you don't know your stuff, you will lose. And do you? But when you talked about parents with kids who have speech difficulties, they would love to have a daughter or a son that could debate them so well. And then I'm like, wow, man, the thing that will annoy me sometimes would be, I couldn't imagine it the other way. My heart goes out to those parents, and you're helping those people. That's just doing a great service for the world. That's so good. That is good. I love listening to people like you and getting a brand new perspective of things that I take for absolute granted. And you're doing really great work in the world. So thank you for that. And then now you're giving resources to people to be able to multiply yourself, really. And so you said retirement. Are you trying to build something that you're just not having to work at? Or is this your new passion project for the next, I don't know, 50 years?
I don't think I've got 50 years left, but it's something that I want to build. Because, as I said, I want to hand over that baton. And I believe actually that not only handing over the baton to other younger speech therapists and giving them the confidence, yes, you can do this, and this is how you do it, but also to parents thinking, like, there are parents here in the UK who have been waiting a year, 2 years on a waiting list to get their child to be seen. And when they've got such severe needs, that's a long time to wait. And so in the meantime, if they can find a resource where at a very affordable price to be able to get the tools and try to do it themselves,
that's good.
And while they're waiting for the appointment,
I would imagine, especially, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I would imagine, especially with young kids, 2 years is an eternity. Because you're losing what wires together, what fires together, wires together. And so they're losing, it seems like, this brain capacity in that 2 years that it's hard to gain back. Yes.
That's right. And also the frustration just builds up. It causes a ripple effect, not only on the child, but on the whole family. When relationships break down. Parents are feeling very lonely. I spoke to one mum yesterday saying, I asked her whether she goes out to other friends, and she says she can't go to anyone's house because her son just breaks everything. And
How,
he doesn't have the
how,
understanding. He's 6 years old. He'll just run up and down, making noises, and he can't communicate with others because he's very severely autistic. And she's alone. She's alone on this journey because she can't go to her friend's house because she's worried that he'll break things.
Yeah. And I'm sure like a lot of things, it puts a strain on the marriage too.
That's right. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I'm
I've only
sure.
been doing it for a few days actually for this particular contract, but I
Yeah.
think the number of people are having to write in the report that please send 2 copies of my resources to mum and dad because they don't live in the same house. And that's heartbreaking as well.
It is. Yeah. Because I can imagine if you, I'm sure if you looked up the numbers, that they probably get separated at a much higher pace than people who don't have those problems.
Yes. And if you're a single mum having to cope with this on your own, it's really hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Things that I never think about. So you're building this, and how long do you have it all built out now that
I've got the membership. Yeah, I've got both memberships sorted out. The mini membership, I call it a mini membership because it's only £7 a month. It has all my resources, all my planners and my journals, my everything in there.
So what does £7 translate into dollars?
Probably about $9 a month.
That's very inexpensive.
Exactly. Yeah. So I thought it would make it affordable for parents.
That's extremely affordable.
Staff. Yeah. And then if they wanted to upgrade, if some of the speech therapists wanted to upgrade into the main membership, Maven Business Haven, then they would get more support from me. And currently we're at the founding member price of $27.
So here's something, just a business. You're making it £7 or $9, right? And so that's a very, very affordable thing. I wonder, because I'm sure some people just don't have the money to really afford a lot of things.
No, parents particularly, yeah.
I wonder, especially something like yours, like the idea that I would have is asking people who are paying $9 if they would like to sponsor someone for an extra $9. So I'm paying an extra $18 a month to support another child.
That's a really good idea. I should get some sponsorships from different.
Yeah.
These parents are really struggling. It's opened my eyes working for a public sector again, even though I'm a contractor working for them.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're paying me a lot more than they would their normal people. But I'm getting the job done quicker, really, because I've been doing it for such a long time and find shortcuts. And that's the kind of thing I want to pass on to the new qualified or even the experienced qualified therapists who are like, oh, just bogged down with all these reports that they have to write. Today I wrote 2 reports, quite long reports, and I just found a way of getting around it quickly.
Because I think if somebody's listening to this podcast, I think, and I know you and I didn't talk about this, but I'd like to do it, that if anybody wants to sponsor someone for $9 a month, I think they should just reach out to you and be like, hey, I'd like to sponsor 10 kids a month. Here's $90 a month.
That would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be really cool. Yeah.
I think that's really awesome. I think that's fantastic. And I'll tell you what, just go ahead and sign me up for 3. Send me a link or something. I'll sponsor 3 kids. I think it's an amazing daggone. To me, this is just, I call it you're doing God's work. Because man,
and I'm glad you
impressed.
said that, because actually for a while, I don't know if you're a believer, I'm a Christian. And
yeah, I'm in there.
Yeah, so
I do the best I can.
Yeah, so for a while, I actually I was having this battle with God in a way. Every morning when I pray, oh, do I have to do this again and work with these people because I've done it for 30 years? Can't you give me a break? And he was just, no, you've got to do it because you've got a gift and you're giving people the gift of communication. And one day I was working with this stroke patient whose parents are in Canada, in South Africa. And she was a person who could only say, wow, I want to, and she got stuck in a kind of rut, couldn't get the words out, couldn't get the sentences out. And her parents were trying to ask her questions and she wasn't able to say anything. So I gave her this communication system, and she was able to tell them about what her husband's doing and what her son has been doing, and asking them questions. And at the end of it, mum said to her, Bev, she's had 8 speech therapists before you, and no one has ever given her a system to communicate. I nearly cried at that point, because I'd had one of those discussions with God about wanting to stop being a speech therapist. And she said, you've really got a gift. And they're Christians as well, the parent and the stroke patient. And she said, I believe that God's put you in this place for a reason, to work with Karen. And I said to her, it's funny you should say that. Only this morning I was having a discussion with him and saying, oh, can I just have a rest now? And no, you've got this skill where you give people that ability to communicate, whether it's in McDonald's or whether it's talking to their parents in South Africa or whatever it is. You've got this gift, so get on and do it. And I feel a bit like Moses saying, oh no, I can't do this, you've got to stammer or whatever. And
what's funny about Moses is he had a speech problem.
He did. Yeah, he had a stammer.
His brother Aaron was his voice, right?
That's right. Yeah.
That's so good. There's a lot going on here. Yeah, that's good. I love that. Yeah, I think that's been fantastic. What is there anything else you would want people to know about your business or about your passion?
I do have a freebie at the moment. So if people want to get a freebie, which is called Make a Sentence freebie. So it's got all the kind of like photographs of objects and verbs and describing words and places. And they're all set out in grids with photographs that you could print off or use interactively on the screen. Yes, I've got a freebie. So just go to mavenbusinesshaven.com/freebie and you can get it there.
I love it. Where else can people find you?
If you have got a child or you've got an adult who's got communication difficulties, I tend to work with mainly sort of school age children up to 60 or whatever. You can come to bevjessup.com, and that's my patient website. You can book a demo if you go to bevjessup.com/contact, and that's how people tend to get to know me. They book a demo with me. We go online, like now, like going on Zoom. I get to know them a bit, and then we take it from there.
And I say, if you want to pay for someone, sponsor a few people, then you should do that as well. And I'm sure Bev can make a way to do that, right?
Yes, I can send you a link to join.
I love it. Bev, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. You have a great day.